Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
AKA. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
And hey guys, welcome back to the Fake Ass Book Club. It's your girl Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat.
Hey Moni.
You look cute.
You look cute.
Oh my gosh, we got boots.
You can't see the boots.
We've
Well,
got, mine are more,
we got boots. It's cold
utility.
outside.
It is cold.
But it's nice and warm in here.
We've
got warmth and books and sparkling wine. So
cheers.
Cheers.
Listen, cheers to making it here today. Cheers to you guys for making it here today.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Yes, we're excited as
Have a
always.
seat.
Please do.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you have something sparkly, you might want to grab that because we're out here. So, you guys, we're excited because last month was Native American or Indigenous American Month, Heritage Month, and I wanted to review a book in November. It's November now, but there's never a terrible time to honor Indigenous people and the art that they create. And so I was looking around like, okay, what book should we pick? And I came across a book called The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angelina Booley. Okay, I think I said that right. So, yeah, I'm excited. It looks really, really dope. I mean, part of the reason why I picked it, you guys, was because the cover art was so gorgeous, which I will have to show that to you. But
wait, here it is now.
okay, it's giving everything we needed to give.
So go to YouTube if you want to see it.
Yeah, go there. And it was designed by Rich Diaz. And this person is a senior art director at Macmillan Children's Publishing Group. So I just thought that was super nice. So I liked it. So sometimes I do look at the book and think, oh, that looks nice. I want to see that. So I think before we get into this, we should probably let's stay true to form and dedicate this episode, friends. So hands over your heart, you guys. We want to thank you as always for joining us. This is such a treat for us. Understand, like, this podcast is the reason why I get to see her on a regular basis. Most of my other friends, shout out to you guys if you listen. I don't get to see y'all like that. So maybe you tune in, you listen. We hope you do. Also, I want to dedicate this to our fabulous patrons. We've got another one.
I saw that.
Boop, boop. Thank you so
You're
much.
You're the real hero.
Listen, it means so much to us, you guys. I mean, we're not just saying that. Like, it means a whole bunch. So thank you so much for supporting us, you guys. Let's see, what else did I want to dedicate this to? I don't know, friend. I think I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't remember exactly. So, you know what I'm saying? Dedicated just to...
I definitely want to dedicate this one to the Polished Lady.
Okay.
And her
hey,
events last Friday, Spirit of a Lady. I wasn't able to attend. You were. She gave me this
teamwork.
She's so thoughtful. She sent this beautiful necklace.
So cute.
And I
so
just want to shout this one out to her. Out here producing in this media space. I'm like, I love to see it. So this one's for you.
I know. And just to double back on that or to support that, yes, and I really like what her brand stands for too. I mean, she's a very authentic person. You can feel that when you're interacting with her. And she's at every event. So shout out to you, because for one, I'm tired watching you. Just for the record. Like, you out here, sis. And so
T.I. the Family Hustle, their hairdresser Shakana.
of course I do. Yes.
She had a show called Bitch You Work Hard.
Did she? I missed it.
She briefly had a show like on VH1
That's
where
hilarious.
she featured. She would be like, "Bitch,
you work hard." Like, bitch, you work hard. And we meet-
Respectfully,
right? Not
Polished
even the
lady,
bad
you work
kind.
hard.
Cheers to you, sis.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So yes. All right. So
Dedication over.
Yeah, dedication over, guys. So on that note, let me give you guys a little bit of information about the book. The hardcover of this book was 496 pages. It was published in March 16th of 2021 by Henry Holt Company. So the author, Angeline Booley, she is enrolled as a member of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of the Chippewa Indians, and she's a storyteller who writes about her Ojibwe community in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Shout out to Michigan. That's where I'm from, you guys. Whoop, whoop. She was a former director of the Office of Indian Education at the Department of Education. And her book is getting picked up for a Netflix series by the Obamas.
I could see that.
That was loud. Sorry. Obamas. I like them. Oh, yeah. You know, like,
it was giving
how
like
dope is that?
action screenplay while I was reading it. So I'm very glad to hear that, and I look forward to seeing this project.
I love it. And you know how she described this? She said that she was writing. I like this energy because this is where the best creative stuff comes from is, you're consuming art and you don't see yourself in art, right? So she is very adamant about representation. And she was like, when I was younger, I always loved like mysteries and stuff like that. So she was like, this is like the indigenous Nancy Drew story.
I swear to God, I was like, let Moni stop talking so I can say this is
Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew. Because it was
Nancy
giving,
Drew.
like so many in her like thought, we'll get there. But it was,
We're so excited
I mean, as
to
someone
be
who
here.
read a lot of Nancy Drew books.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even.
I was bored a lot at school, and
Books
they
are for the
had
lonely
all it was for the lonely
I had brothers.
folks.
I wasn't that lonely. But
Yeah, I tried to get into the Hardy Boys. Wasn't as interesting. Nancy Drew. I'll stop there. Nancy Drew broke into a lot to I was like, why do you have a lock-picking kit? Like, I feel like I would
Shout
have
out
gotten
to
in so
Nancy
much
Drew.
trouble for all the stuff I broke into. Like, but I was like, I was trying to solve the mystery of the broken clock or whatever
Hello,
that was.
that's what it was. I mean, what are you saying?
It's been a while. That's not what it was called. But
So I liked that she said that because I do think that a lot of some of the best works are created when it's like, okay, I feel like there's this need here and I want to see myself represented. And so some of the facts I was learning about her was that like she's been writing this. She got the idea when she was 18. And she's 50, well, she's probably 56 maybe now.
yeah.
But she really started going in on getting it published and stuff from the time she was 45 to 55. I'm just saying, women, we still have value as we get older, you guys.
I would say more.
I would
like,
say
we
more.
don't have, like, because our value's so wrapped up in our reproductive value.
And how we look.
And
blah,
so,
blah,
but it's
blah.
like, yeah, as you get older, you get more skilled, you become more valuable, at least to yourself. But really, you're just getting better. So,
Yes. And there's still
sorry,
something.
I'm not like a porn star, but like.
Well, you should be. We're all expecting that from you. So how dare you? Bust it wide open. Bust it wide open.
No, but yes, exactly. It's not supposed to be like, well, I guess it's time for me to shrivel up in a corner. Right. It's like, no.
You can still give birth to creative projects. You can still tell your story. And
I'm glad she did this.
She's
because
linking
I
up with
really
the
enjoyed
Obamas now.
Because I wouldn't have been able to enjoy this if she hadn't have been willing to share her gift.
I love it.
So
I'm
very
so excited.
Grateful to you, ma'am.
Yes, indeed.
This was very enjoyable.
It was so good. So it's a YA novel, and it's about a Native teen who has to kind of root out some corruption in her community. And so with that, I want you to kind of take our listeners through
our journey. So this was one of our longer books because this
Twas.
one was like 14 hours long on
14
Audible
plus,
and
yeah.
like over 400 pages long in the whatevers. So our protagonist is Donis, and she is what we would consider mixed race girl. Like her mom's white, her dad was indigenous.
Scandal.
And scandal. And so this is like right on the Canada-Michigan border.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's just turned, I don't know if she just turned 18, but she's 18. She's graduating from school. She got into the college she wants to go to. She's going with her best friend, Lily. It's just, good vibes. You can feel it ramping up to something terrible because everything's going really well. She's also like,
life's not this good.
she used to be a hockey star because she's kind of a beefy girl. You know what I mean? Like she's 6 foot. She described herself as being kind of flat chested and her nickname's Bubble because she got a big old butt.
That bubble butt.
And so, she's so we start out with her, getting to know her. She's visiting her recently disabled grandmother. She's giving so many things I related to because she was an avid runner. She's a huge nerd. Like she would
you
like.
saw yourself in Donis.
I really saw myself in Donis in so many ways.
I so didn't. I just loved her though.
Yes.
Which tracks.
And so, because like every time she'd stretch, like she would name all the muscles in the body. So she'd have an edge in her anatomy class when she starts school. I was like,
not
yes,
that
I love
dedicated.
this girl.
Wow.
So I was like, yes, more of this. So we're getting to know her, and then she's got her grandmother just recently had a stroke on her mother's side.
I believe, yes.
And so she's going to visit her. She's really into respecting her elders, and it's giving. She's fantastic. So this is our protagonist. So sadly, while at a celebration, you know how it is after you graduate, everybody's throwing parties. So while she's out celebrating, her best friend's meth addict ex-boyfriend shows up, causing static, and shoots
Which was one of her friends, which was really crazy too, because they were really good friends. He was also a nerd in school. Yeah, Travis. And they studied together. So they had their own personal history, but then and he ended up, being with her best friend.
Yeah.
And that went bad quickly.
It did. It went downhill. Turns out Travis started.
Oh, wait. Should I do a trigger warning? Oh, my God.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
First trigger warning, we spoil everything.
We spoil,
We're
guys.
spoiling everything.
We have
and
to be
also
better about
there
this.
is violence.
Sexual violence, drug use, adult content, language, the whole situation.
It's very real, so it's not
you're not prepared for realness. Don't be here, y'all. Y'all can't be here and not be prepared for realness.
Prepare yourself.
'Kay.
So Travis, Travis shows up because I think he dropped out. I don't think he even graduated.
I don't believe
And so he shows up because he's like, "No, Lily, I gotta talk to you. I just talk to you one time." And she's like, "No." And he was like, "No, just one more time and I'll leave you alone. Don't fall for that." I'm like, that's
always the worst time.
And never get in the car because they'll try to get you in the car. Never get in that car.
Keep walking.
Find an adult.
Okay.
And so they so he keeps bugging her. So Donis and Lily split up, and so later on when they reunite, she sees her and Travis having a little scuffle. Travis pulls out a gun, shoots Lily and then himself. So now Donis is like, damn. Oh, but in the meantime, like before this, Donis, she was kind of distracted because she met this super cute dude named Jamie. So Jamie shows up with his uncle. There's a new whatever. Her
uncle had passed away kind of recently as well,
under suspicious circumstance. Her uncle David.
Yes,
I like that too because I got an uncle David.
See,
he was
look
super
at
dope.
you.
So there's a lot of
like,
parallels. So she had been hanging out. She had a little lightweight crush on this new dude or whatever. So she was distracted. So she's feeling guilty. It's like, man, if I hadn't been so, chasing after this dude, I might have been able to help my best friend. That's not fair. She didn't pull the trigger. Travis did. And so come to find out, though, her new little boyfriend, Jamie, he's 5'0".
Her little boyfriend. I heard that. Shady.
It's giving deep cover. He's posing as like a high school student so he can infiltrate the meth dealing hockey team.
Can y'all believe it? Not meth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can believe it. Michigan meth. Yeah. Yeah, and so he recruits her to be a CI, which is a confidential informant for his investigation. Now, this is
that was bold.
It was very bold because, for one, like, you really shouldn't say yes to anything after you have a tragedy because it was really kind of messed up. They took advantage of her, like emotions, because it's like we have to, protect girls like Lily, which is true. But I quite honestly, I'm very skeptical of FBI DA tactics and whatever. Okay. But anyway, this is just a story. Like, this is fiction or whatever.
Just
so
enjoy the story.
She agrees to start working with the uncle and her boyfriend and to catch this hockey ring or this hockey meth ring or whatever.
But what was cute though, if I can just interject here, I thought too. Thank you. It was so cute to hear her talk about her crush on this guy. She was trying not to so hard because
don't be that girl.
She has a brother, like her brother relationship
half
was
brother.
Her half brother. Thank you.
What's that dude's name?
He was
not Travis.
No, we just said him. You look it up while I'm talking.
No, I want to use my brain.
Okay, well, I don't. See, this is why I keep you.
Levi.
Yeah, it was. Look at you using your. Y'all see that? That was amazing. That was amazing.
It wasn't that amazing.
I know. But you said trying was your superpower. We just talked about that.
Trying is, you guys just don't know.
I don't have that superpower sometimes. But I just now.
I disagree.
That's true. It was. Okay, fine.
Yes,
fine.
Levi.
But
her half brother Levi, because their sordid past is that. Because, it was hard for Lily's mom, because I don't know if y'all know this, but a lot of times when, quote unquote white women step outside the box and like bring in somebody else, it causes static with your rich family.
Well, also, you're no longer seen as valuable
as a pure
vessel.
Like
you're literally your stock
yourself.
has gone down.
Your price goes down if you ever fuck a black guy.
Yeah,
so
that's a real thing. Look it up. Even in the porn industry. Yeah.
Or do.
That'll be a Patreon episode. You guys sign up for our Patreon, www.patreon.com/thefabpodcast.
And her grandparents too were not fans of the indigenous people, so it was double awkward because she loved her grandmother and her grandmother loved her, but she knew that her grandmother didn't like that side of her culture, so it kind of created a weird dynamic and stuff. So, but anyway, her mama was got cheated on by her daddy,
her brothers,
with Levi's mama.
Yeah,
so
there's a little, but they love each other. I mean, you get the feeling that that doesn't matter between them per se.
She said it's like that wasn't us.
Yeah,
you know
and I love that because I do think that like when you have siblings and you don't share the same parents, there is still opportunities to cultivate a real, real bond and stuff like that. And so I liked that. I liked that they kind of highlight that.
Until the end.
Of course. So we're not there yet, though. But I'm just saying initially,
I was like,
oh, that's cool.
Like kind of, there's that little tension.
And he's like that guy,
but that's
though.
why she didn't want, because originally she thought Jamie had a girlfriend at home, like from where he had, like a long distance girlfriend. So she was like, she didn't want to be that girl, like a home wrecker.
Because I forget the name of it. Because there was like a specific name that it was called, because like she was tasked with being somebody who showed him around.
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't want to be like one of those girls who.
The puck sluts?
The puck. Yeah, was that it? There was
they
another
use that
name
term.
too. Yeah,
there was
but
probably another one.
She just didn't want to be that. So that was really cute too to see her.
It was funny
kind
too
of.
because every sport has like a name for that. Because I remember when I was reading the Tucker Max stuff, and he was at Duke, and they called the girls lacrosse-titutes, the lacrosse groupies. I was like, that's funny.
I mean, it sounds funny, but y'all fucking them.
Right? And whenever you lay down a woman,
so why are they too? Yeah, so I'm just
trying
to understand like why the derogatory like.
I know.
Anywho, we don't have to go there, but I'm just saying. But if you're
providing, just be nice to the.
My God, or at least shut the hell up about it. You know what I'm saying? They're giving you exactly what you want. Right?
Whatever.
You get a stingy bitch like me, you ain't getting shit. So you should probably be excited. There's just people out here who want to do that for you. Next caller. Carry on, friends.
That part. So she agrees to be a part of the investigation, and so they end up. We skip ahead. Come to find out, her uncle David, because they thought he had relapsed. Turns out. He was trying to bust the ring and like ran afoul of them or whatever. And come to find out the hockey coach was in on it. She ends up getting raped by one of the team members' daddies. And because here's the other thing. I'm sorry.
Damn, she just threw that out
because we haven't. Well, no. Let's get through the whole story. So then they end up on this like island or something because they end up getting kidnapped because that's when it was given Nancy Drew.
So they're Upper Peninsula, so like there's ferries that you have to take across and stuff like that. So.
And also too, because old tech alert, this takes place in like maybe the early 2000s because they're talking about Nokia phones and they couldn't get signals places and stuff like that because I was like, oh, this is in the past and stuff. So it all ends up working out. Like she she died for a little bit, but then comes back. Like
she died for a little bit.
Because here's the other thing. This is why I don't recommend being a confidential informant. You do usually end up dying. The police don't protect you, so don't do that.
I mean, I don't ever listen. That
is risky, especially for an 18-year-old girl. Come on now.
I would.
But she ends up basically breaking up. She finds out her brother's in on the meth ring and was actually trying to set her up. To take the fall for like the little wire fraud stuff. And then what else? Because Travis' mama was in on it. Travis was obviously in on it too because he had started mixing mushrooms with the meth. Yeah, and that was magic. Fucking it up because it's like that's bad medicine. Like I love those terms. Like there's good. So medicine,
let's get into that just a little bit. I
know. No, I got to work with the story. So this is how it ends. How we'll get back and stuff like that. So then, her grandma ends up dying. And then then we get it like a year later after they bust the ring and everything like that. She ends up breaking up with Jamie because it's like we didn't start out healthy and we both need to find ourselves and you need to find your tribe. She gets accepted into her family's tribe because she wasn't officially a member and you have until you're 19 to join. And she also started appreciating her mom more, which was sweet because you really do have a better relationship with your parents when you realize they're just people. Like, and they were probably super young when they had you, so just kind of a little slack or whatever. But it was really because she ended at the powwow, and I actually follow a couple powwow accounts on Instagram because it's really interesting. Like they do have these competitions and they're super dope. So she was finally after her mourning period for her best friend was able to be a part of the powwow, which was like the red healing dress, the red jingle dress. And I was crying, and it was beautiful.
Oh, you were crying?
Yes, at the end, because she finally got to dance for all this for all the stolen sisters. Aww. Like,
Are you about to cry now?
A little.
Oh, my God. I wish we had a cameraman so they could, like, hone in on the one tear. No, it was beautiful. It was a good story.
I really like that. So, but back to the mushrooms.
Wow, I feel like that went really fast. So we took you on a trip.
14 hours of the book,
right? In one moment. Yes. So boom. So if you have to stop it right there, now you know what happened.
And if you go to a dinner party and they're talking about like, oh yeah, the advisor tried She's like,
I know about
oh
this.
yeah. It's like, I really like the fire, but I thought it was very irresponsible. They drafted her to be a CI at only 18. That's very, because even the mama was like, even though it's legal, it's not ethical. It's like, you're damn straight. It
Definitely
wasn't.
not. No, I just feel like a lot of the books that when we're reading about different cultures, it does tend to talk about like plant medicine as a thing. And I really,
Oh, because that's what she ends up going to school for, to become a traditional traditional botanist, like a herb, something biologist.
Well, she was even a suspect initially too because of how smart she was and the knowledge that she had.
And they were trying to recruit her to basically
make meth.
What was the Walter White situation?
Yes.
Yeah, and come in like Heisenberg.
Not Heisenberg. That was
because
so
it was
good.
so funny because when they were training her on, because like you got to at least be able to infiltrate, you got to at least know how to make meth, and she was proud that her meth was better than
it's like
Jamie's.
mine. Yeah, hers was trash. It was all cloudy.
I was like, yeah, I would be. It's like, okay, it's not like I want to make meth, but it's nice to know like my meth would be better than your meth.
I'd be the meth queen. Okay. Man, that is so funny.
I like to do things well.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, why not be good at it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really liked our protagonist. I took her side quite a bit.
I love it. It's so it was definitely a good story. Again, I think if you're a sensitive reader, you are gonna experience a range of.
It reminded me a lot of The Hate You Give.
You get that. You get Angie Thomas vibe. Shout out to you, Angie. You are out here. But yeah, very, very much so. And even though it was a young adult novel, I still felt like it was
sorry.
It's fine. It's relevant, and it felt very still like, I don't know, it drew me in, so I enjoyed it. So I think even if you're outside of the age range that it's recommended for, it's a really good book. And I think that too, I liked the connection that she had with Jamie was the fact that, because I think he was like 22, she was 18, so he's a little older than her, but also there was that like I think he was considered bicultural or biracial or whatever too, and he didn't really have any like connection to his tribe. So you could see how he was just super fascinated learning about his culture and all that kind of stuff.
Also sounds like he was super high.
And high or hot?
Hot.
Yeah, he
seemed quite sober actually. He seemed super hot. And I think that made him like very persuasive. Because I remember thinking too, I'm like, she's like following his, because I don't know if I would have shut up immediately. He was like, no, we can't talk about, like right after her best friend got shot, he was like, I can't have you talk to this, I'm a part of the undercover. Because she deduces that he's actually
undercover
he's
agent.
5'0". And he's like
5'0". I ain't heard that in years.
Right, I love that.
Did I still say that?
Because it gave so much deep cover.
Yeah,
it was like, yeah, it's like 5'0".
Oh my god,
like, hit this mother. I'm sorry. And so so yeah, she's like, but to me, I was a little confused about how, like, I don't know how compliant I'd be, like, after watching my best friend die, and he's like, don't talk to anybody about what I told you. I'm like, I'm at least talk to my auntie. Like, her Aunt Terry.
Ooh, can we get into the auntie?
I loved Aunt Terry, yes.
She was fantastic, and this kind of can
that was her, like, indigenous auntie on her daddy's side.
Yes.
And so she was one of the fire keepers.
Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, what that is.
Yeah, so...
I feel like I've been talking a lot.
That's what
explain what a firekeeper is.
No, I don't want to.
I don't want to explain it wrong. It seems like it's a sacred.
It feels like, so anytime there's any tribal ceremonies, whether it's a burial or sometimes it might just be, say they have a community member who is, I don't know, having some kind of trouble in their life. It could be drug abuse or whatever. They'll do a ceremony and sacred. There's like well, not sacred smoke, but like you burn the fire and that smoke, like your prayers go up. It's a whole thing. So
it's like
her family is known for
where
that.
Like you write prayers down or intentions, you set them on fire, and that sends it out.
Yes, and so her family was part of that deep tradition. They were the ones who, anytime
like
there was any sort of traditional fire ceremonies, her dad and then like her aunt. And what I liked about the aunt was that she married an indigenous person who was also Black, though.
Yeah.
And she was talking about, so like there is a theme of like colorism in this book that I thought was interesting. That
called it the skin tone continuum. And she was like, she's on the right side of it. So she's able to pass the border fairly easy and does it for a lot of the elders, like when they need medications or milk.
Because it's easier for her because she's not getting questioned as hard.
She's more white passing.
Exactly. And so I guess, I assume that any group that has that continuum that she talks about, that exists, but I guess I never really thought about that and how that probably plays out.
What?
the colorism thing in Native American cultures. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like
here's
I
the
never
thing,
really thought
because
about it.
I was educated a lot on Code Switch, NPR's Code Switch, because they
Shout out
talked
to Code Switch. I
like
feel like
Code
that'd be a great
Switch.
collab, just for the
Yeah,
record.
Radio
You
Lab,
guys
I love
were-
it.
Yes.
And so they were they did several like a series about this, about what it means to be indigenous, because it's like you have to do that blood quantum.
They talked about this in the book too.
Yeah,
Even
and-
citizenship, like getting your citizenship. Like I don't think I had a lot of information around that, and I thought that was interesting.
It
Damn,
is.
they go
or the
hard.
fact too, where she said like a lot of white kids would be like, well, you know, congratulations on the free college. It's like that's not like not every, because that's the thing too. Like a lot of what we call white people think that black people and indigenous people automatically get to go to college for free. That's not true. Like
No,
you can-
I
The
didn't.
only
I had
thing
to
the
pay
civil
for
rights
mine.
did thing was like made it so you can't say no niggers allowed. It didn't mean
Right.
like you get to go there for free. Like there are certain scholarships, but we don't all get to just go to college for free. There's a lot of colored people with student loan payments. So,
Yeah, for sure.
like, just know that. Like, I feel like that doesn't get said enough, because it's like, well, you guys get to go to college for. Because I remember one of my high school teachers, racist ass high school teachers, used to say that. She's like, I wish some of my students could click black on the FAFSA so that they could, you know, get basically the stuff that the undeserving Negroes are getting. Like,
What?
that was like a whole thing where she was just like so sad that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's really fucked up to think that like
Yeah.
that's still a thing. Like, I mean,
still a
obviously,
thing.
because colonialism, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, the closer you are to Spanish and your oppressors or whatever, like, yeah, you're better like that. And so, I like that they kind of touched in on that and how she kind of made the point that like because her daughters,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, the
are darker,
twins
you
were
know, her
super
nieces,
just how they were described.
darker skin and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like they'll have challenges that Donis
And that was
won't
part of the
ever
reason why she
have.
decided to be this confidential informant, because she was like, I don't want like them to have to deal with watching their friends or even each other die the same way she had to watch Lily die. And that was what was so crazy, because she never really got a chance to mourn her. Like, she went straight into finishing high school, having this traumatic event, and then working for the feds.
Yeah, and then being sexually assaulted, and
Yeah.
then finding out her brother was a meth dude, and it was like a meth dude. That's
meth
the
dude. That's
he
the
was a-
definition
he
term.
was
No,
a-
you're fine. That's it. Meth dude.
he was a meth dude, and that's always a bummer when you find that out. It's like, hello.
Well, or too, like, because I liked how you brought up like the Travis thing, because we've seen that, you know, we've gone to high school with people and you like run into people and be like, God,
happened?
whoa, and then you're just want to be like, oh my God, and then I'm just like, whoa,
Just pretend like I don't see this.
jeepers.
It's just, I mean, because it is there. It's
Or who
very
died. We've
sad.
known like some classmates who died from drug issues, so it's really sad to watch.
Definitely.
And also, but that doesn't mean you have to be alone with them. Like, that is so, I don't think it gets said enough. If you've broken it off with someone, you do not need to be alone with that person.
No.
That's usually when the murder happens. So on both sides, men and women, like I'm serious.
Trigger warning.
Trigger
Murder.
warning. Or because they don't even have to be alone. Like, that's the thing. Like, so many times it's so unfortunate this is such a common scenario.
And that is kind of like what I was left with. It's just like the sort of overwhelming sense of despair, like in these communities, not just indigenous. Obviously, we're talking about indigenous, but it doesn't even really matter. Like, we just got through talking about what was that book we just read? Etaf Rum's book.
A Woman is No
A
Man.
Woman is No Man, and just how like a lot of the time now, me pointing out this fact of life is not men bashing, just for the record.
Oh,
This is nope. We're gonna get there. I want to preface this statement with this because I do feel like those two things get kind of like misconstrued, right? So like if I'm stating an objective fact, like I can show you statistics of abuse, especially domestic abuse, toward women. Like that is a fact. Like that is a thing that happens. So me saying like that's messed up isn't an implication on every man. It's an implication of a larger problem that is largely sort of, I would say, I mean, men are a part of the issue, though, for that, when we're speaking about this issue,
Well,
but it's not every man.
We got a comment one time where a guy was like, man, what is it with y'all and rape? I'm like, what is it with men and
said
rape?
that?
I'm not gonna say it on
Rape.
air
No,
now.
I'm just kidding. rape.
So we're saying it, okay? We're not gonna call it the R word. It's just it happens, and we're talking about it because we like it to happen.
And that's
less.
right. So it's across the board though, like because I do hear the conversation that I feel like people feel like, oh my gosh, like we're always talking about LGBTQ stuff, we're always talking about Black stuff, we're always talking about this and that. And I feel like, no, we've always been having these conversations. This is why the Fake Ass Book Club exists. These are the conversations that happen that aren't necessarily on the air, that people are having in private. And I just feel like we need to share these conversations.
Yeah,
these conversations
there's a reason
are
women
happening.
go to the bathroom in groups. We're trying not to get raped.
There's that part. And there's also a thing where it's like we have to create spaces where we can have these conversations because we understand that as soon as we start talking about these things, that it's instantly
like, why are you attacking men?
You feel right. And it's like, it's not attacking men. And it's not like it's happening on this global level now. It's just that
and
there's
like I said, shout out to
platforms.
all the allies and all them, because it's like, yeah, there was one guy in this book who raped someone. Most of the men didn't rape anybody.
They were amazing, yeah.
Like, like there was a lot of guys in this book, and she like her uncle David. Like, he sounded like he was the shit. And there were a lot of really great men in this book, and in my life, most of the men have been fantastic.
Same. And so, yes. And so shout out to them, but also I'm allowed to say when a man is in a, like when
and
there's
being protected by other men. Like, because even her, after she got raped, her brother was like, well, why were you alone with him?
Instantly.
Like, wow. Thanks, Levi.
Thank you, bro.
Super duper. That was just last week.
Yeah.
Like never really got a chance to even process that. But you know what? Thanks for making it my fault.
Wow.
But like that was the whole thing. So like, and just the guy who was like, why are you? He was just jokingly saying what about that stuff.
I got it.
But it was recently brought to our attention that we've been accused of man bashing, and I would just like to say that the people making those accusations, I bet that they haven't been as nice to men as I have.
I bet.
I've been very nice to a lot of men, so there you go.
Sure you have, and I mean, I can't say that I've always been nice, but I've been there. No, I'm just kidding.
Bashing is a little.
No, bashing is not a thing. Like there's
now, you know who was doing some bashing? Those blanket parties. Can we talk about what a blanket party is? And maybe we should bring some of those around.
Let's talk about it because that includes men.
It does, yeah. So a blanket party, that's something I learned. I love learning things. So that's something I learned from this book. I'd never heard that term before. So a blanket party is when a group of women find out that one of their sisters has been abused by a man, and they basically find that man, throw a blanket around him, and go to town.
Whoop that ass.
They whoop that ass.
How whimsical.
And I was like, and it reminded me
is that bashing? It's like he was an abuser.
That is bashing. Yes, they're bashing him.
Well, see, that's
physically.
The kind we're talking about.
But it's like, but it needs to, sometimes it's like, well, if you want to kick some ass, you got to be willing to get your ass kicked. Like, that's just,
Wow.
And it reminded me a lot of the Dixie Sick. Let me try that again. The Dixie Chicks song, Goodbye Earl, which is a favorite.
Oh, yeah, that was
about,
a domestic abuse situation.
Yes, about two friends coming together to solve a problem. And they did wrap them up in a tarp. So that was
the Dixie Chicks. I only know about that song because of you, because I don't think I would ever have been because we used to be going to the YMCA to work out. Oh. This was like we had to have been like in our 24.
Yeah, it was before we were going to Cancun.
It was in preparation. It was in preparation because that was like the first time I really, as a young adult, started working out because it had never occurred to me
before that.
Yeah, but not
the free
that's
one.
True. The free one. Yeah, at my house. The DVD for the old people.
Oh,
Billy Blanks.
Damn, had us
We're aging
together.
Ourselves. Yep. But yeah, it was it was a whole vibe, man. I definitely
Dixie Chicks are shout out to.
I said, okay, this isn't terrible. I mean, they actually
and they got a lot of flack for that song too. They were accused of man bashing.
I mean, again, like you talking about domestic abuse doesn't make you a man basher. Like, And it's like, I feel like maybe people feel like it's amplified because there is a lot of conversation around it now, but I think it's just because it's out in the open.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily happening more. We're just saying like, not so much. And I like too, like,
and I don't like it. And so I'm allowed to not like
it. I don't like it.
You know what I'm saying?
And they reference The Art of War quite a bit. Stunning Shoes, The Art of War. And because I do feel like men and women kind of are at war all over the world. Like we see it in Iran. I'm sorry. Did I say it right? Iran. Yeah, we see it in Iran where they finally abolished the morality police.
Whoop, whoop. Oh my gosh! Shout out!
Yes,
I'm just saying,
it's about damn time. Because you don't get to tell me what I get to wear. Like if I want to have them out, they're out. If I want to wear if I want to change my hair, whatever I want to do, I get to do that, and you don't get to beat me to death.
I mean, but why not? Though? I really don't like your hair. It's, you know what I'm saying?
And it's like,
it's
well,
giving
I remember Bill Maher said,
okay.
like the whole idea behind the burkas was like, if I can't have the pussy, I don't even want to see it. Like.
Wow, Bill. I don't know. I just feel like
it's too provocative.
We need to sort of, again, like it's all on me. Yeah, it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, too, you could just chill though. Like, how come that's never the option? Like, you could just like calm down a little bit.
I don't think, I think you're asking that. You're man bashing, Moni.
Oh, okay.
Stop it.
That's fine. I mean,
stop it. Leave those men alone.
It's like, I just want to have to be able to show my neck, guys. No. So if I'm bashing you by saying I should be able to do that, I don't know what to say.
But yeah, I definitely like that about indigenous culture.
I do too. I feel like it was a very interesting thing to learn about too, because I mean, I guess I not forgot, but I know that there are tribes that get money from the government. And you know, you were mentioning about your teacher feeling like, oh, Black people get handouts, whatever. But just internally, like how that affects your community too. So you have some indigenous people that are getting money, because Donis was looked at as a trust fund baby.
Well, yeah, because that was the white side of her family. Like,
yeah, so she had that, and then too, I think was it her brother, because he was registered, right? Or?
Yeah, so he had started getting the per capita money when he turned 18, I think.
Maybe
something like that, because there was this idea of like, yeah, you just get the tribal money, but people were pushing back against that. It's like, well, they're just using it on drugs. It's like, okay. Like sometimes, I mean, I'm not saying it's okay to buy drugs, but
I mean, my thing is
the idea of giving people money so they can participate in society, to me, isn't crazy. Like in America, it's seen as like this crazy thing where it's basically asking people to pay Monopoly. Even when you play Monopoly, everybody gets $200.
That's true.
Like you don't start out with like nothing.
It's like you have something because your daddy owned a bank. You have 2 pennies in your pocket, or what, you know what I'm saying? Exactly.
It's like actually right. you owe. Like
you start off owing.
You show up at the game owing.
Yes,
like you can leave this hospital with a bill.
You're in debt.
So
currently.
yeah, it's a sticky wicket, the economics of it. But and actually, I think the per capita came not from the government but from the casino.
Oh yes, I think.
Yeah, like I think it was a whole thing where the casinos were like, we'll pay out so that the kids can have something.
Yeah, I mean, because my thing is that, like, I mean, if my whole culture has been wiped out and we've been relegated to this small area, like, why shouldn't we have some sort of financial support?
Also, because I like the fact that they brought up those Catholic boarding schools that just closed in the 90s, I want to say. Like, and that was very much like stealing their kids for centuries now, I would say. Like, if it just shut down in the 90s, like, that was tragic. And like child separation, like that is a very popular tactic of oppressors. Like we don't talk about it enough in American, like the transatlantic slave trade, but that is how they kept a lot of the control over the slaves, is by a lot of times, like if a woman did have children, they'd sell off all of her children except one, just to keep control.
Stay here.
Yeah,
you're not leaving.
Just to be like, and if you step out of line, we'll sell this one too.
Damn.
Yeah,
it's just. I mean,
and we saw it too when what's his name was in charge and was separating children when the people were coming in from the border.
Yeah, what's his name?
Because our disastrous drug policies and dismantling and destabilization of Central and South American governments, like. Those have led to decades-long problems. And so, like, yeah, like trying to deter them from coming here by ripping them away from their children. And a lot of them are still trying to get reunited. And people are like, this isn't America. I'm like, actually, this is deeply American. This is how we keep control over populations and keep everybody in line. And the fact that was going on in Canada, too.
The point is that you don't learn about it. And I think, like, you know, I think if you're a person who says that to yourself, like, well, I don't see myself like that. Like, I get that because they haven't showed you that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know at what point it's not like it's on you to know, but it's like, this is why we want to encourage people to, you know, like explore narratives outside of the ones that are handed to you all the time, because it's not necessarily something you're gonna learn in school. And so like just being curious to get the information around the things that are happening, just so you can have context for them, because I mean, it seems blatant to me.
Well,
it's
because
like,
I
well,
feel like Neil
obviously.
Britton put it really well, where it's like, well, either the system's rigged or black people are worse. Like, which one is it? Like, when he's talking to white people, it's like,
That's
which
a
one
really
is it?
great question, because
Yeah.
if you say they're worse, then it's like, let's talk about that.
Right, because the fact too, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're in these impoverished communities. It's like, wait a minute, like, no. How about we're a targeted community that's been deliberately kept away from resources? That's a more accurate way of looking at it than the fact that it's like, well, black people just don't want to work.
Right.
And that's been the narrative for so long, where it's like, actually, we worked a really long time for free. And it's
Now, are there black people who could be making better choices for their lives today?
but even in Little Fires Everywhere, it's like she was telling her, it's like, you didn't make good choices, you had good choices.
that's the
and
difference.
that's the thing too, it's like getting good choices for people, because a lot of times people will, like, they'll choose
the better thing if they have it. Yeah,
like
if
a lot of
you
times
have
that's
it.
the case. So yeah, that's
Yeah, man, it was just
unfortunate.
very.
So yeah, and actually the Pope was actually in Canada this year to do an apology tour for the boarding schools. Because and that was the thing that was so, and once again, trigger warning, like they found a lot of skeletons around those boarding
Indigenous
school children.
people.
And they said too, like a lot of times when the children would be taken from their homes, like and put in these boarding schools, the parents would still like set up teepees around the boarding school and drum for their kids every night.
Stop.
So,
Now that
maybe we can cry a little bit. Like, might have to cry a little bit. So yes, like when they talk about that stuff. So a lot of times I was like, when I was reading about her explanation of what it was like in Canada for Indigenous people, I was like, oh, we are rowing the same canoe. Like,
I mean, we're super close. I mean, it all ends up being the same sort of
Yeah.
brand. I mean, I guess that's what ends up being super tragic about it, that no matter where colonialism showed up across the globe, the effects are still felt today. And these and the energy behind it still, you know, it resonates. It resonates. So I think instead
but
of
shout out to the strong.
to the strong,
Yeah, because they're still
Yeah,
here. People
they
want to act
are.
like they're gone or stuff, but it's like, yeah, shout out to the strong who survived. Like everybody who's still here and all the, because I love, whenever and I noticed that in Sherman Alexi's book, like the elders are hilarious. Like they were so funny. And actually she ended up getting saved at the end by the elders.
and I was gonna say the community. What I admired about the book too is that it highlighted, you know, regardless of the issues that you hear about in marginalized communities, I think the biggest obstacle that there is like you get so much bad press, like, oh, they're crackheads, they're doing this, they're doing
meth
that.
heads.
That ends up being the thing that is sort of like highlighted, but you don't highlight the spirit and the tenacity of what you're saying, of that survival spirit of like all of these systemic things that could crush a group of people that never do though, and how they band together sometimes, because you had these caravans of older folks.
Because if I
who
didn't
would
follow
help
these
each
people on
other and go
Instagram, I would never see
places.
powwows and competitions and all the
Yeah.
stuff that they do. Like it's so amazing. Like
You'll have to send me the stuff so I can add it if you
Yes.
guys. Yeah, I'll try to add it on the notes so if
Yeah.
that's something you're interested
you
in.
can see all this
be on there.
these different expressions and culture. And I think I dedicated the Ela Boy. Oh, I don't want to mispronounce his name because he's my favorite digital indigenous artist, Elo Bida. Yes. And I think he's located in Brazil, and it's just so dope. All of the art and just the impact, and there's no reason to not learn about, like, there's no reason to accept the narrative we've given where it was like, oh, there were some brave, noble savages, but they died, and now we just honor them. Like, we literally live in a state called Indiana, which is supposed to be like land of Indians, and I don't
Yeah.
see none of them.
And just a land acknowledgement to those indigenous Indians of Indiana, like where we live. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a thing. Like just saying, like we know that this land belonged to people before. What's so wrong? That's all. Like a lot of the time, people who are in that space, they just want to know. It's like we're here though.
Mm-hmm.
Like just acknowledging that they're here. Like what is super hard about that?
And I love the fact too that the author, since she had this sort of dual identity, like there's this intersectionality at the end when she does her powwow dress, she still honored her the quote unquote white side of her heritage as well, because it's a part of her.
Right.
And like remembering her, because that was the thing, the red lip. We were talking about this earlier, just about how powerful a red lip is. And even when her grandmother was debilitated, every morning they still put a fresh red lip on her.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so dope because, yeah, like there's something in that. And she acknowledged that at the end, like putting all the regalia of all of her cultures on. And I also love the word regalia.
Regalia is fun. I like that. I might even put up a map. I mean, like, y'all ain't got to look at this, but, you know, dorks. Because we're from Indiana, like, they have a map of just, like, the different tribes and stuff like that in the indigenous land. Just so it's like, why not know that? I mean, you may not use that in your everyday life, but, like, even for Thanksgiving that just passed, I am super annoying to my kids. We always have to watch some stuff about that. Mm-hmm. And not because I'm trying to I do think that, like, older people hate that
disruption of their narrative.
Like, I just want to think about eating food. I just want to think about, like, this isn't about that. I'm not saying that you going and spending time with your family and eating turkey and doing whatever the hell you're doing has anything to do with that specifically. But the reason why you get the time off to do this thing, it is based in history. So, like, acknowledging that exists.
I'm with it.
I'm just saying, like, I want my children to know that. And so it doesn't have to leave the energy, but.
I also want to shout out Secretary Deb Haaland, who is the first Native American to serve as the Secretary to the Interior.
Okay.
And so that's what I want to see more of. Like, let's just have a more inclusive government. Like, I think a lot of times what happens is we see it with men who say we're man bashing, or what we're calling white people who say that they're the ones who are victims of racism now. I think there's this lack of imagination where they feel like, oh, we're just trying to turn the tables and oppress them now. Where it's like, actually, I would like to move into a new model where we don't oppress anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to use the system you put in place, actually, because I feel like there might be a better way than that. It hasn't worked out for us well. Mm-mm. And instead of taking that same shitty model and applying it to your dumb ass,
I'd like to do something else.
Let's do something else.
I'm so not interested in oppressing anybody. It's so gross.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't make me feel good to do that. Mm-mm. So it might be hard to imagine that there's a space outside of that, like you're saying, but there is.
There is.
There has to be, these conversations have to be out there too for people to think about it, like just to even like plant the seed of
counter narratives.
Counter narratives, guys. And I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't based in anything other than our own opinions, but
no, some of it's fact.
I mean, some of it's facts, but I'm saying it's coming from, this is the way I see the world. You know what I'm saying? And so
I don't want to hurt nobody. Could I also bring up the 7 grandfathers?
Yes.
I really liked this because every morning our protagonist, Donis, once again, love that name, she would wake up and set some tobacco at a tree and say her prayers and acknowledge, because each day of the week was for one of the 7 grandfathers. So, and I didn't want to butcher the language, but it translated to our good way of life. And it was love, humility, respect, honesty, bravery, wisdom, and truth. And I loved that. I was like, that was super duper. I mean, that's like, why wouldn't you want those things driving you?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I think some of the other ones maybe. I think it's harder sometimes for those things.
Yeah.
Like I always tell my kids, like, it's hard to love people sometimes because they're not always especially when it's not something that's exactly, I don't know. If it bumps up against who you are, you know what I mean? And
like her grandma and the indigenous, like her not liking indigenous people. It's like, I still love my grandma. It's just
granny and stuff, but it's
a little racist.
So it's hard to love people who are different from you. And so, I guess maybe even just that Christian idea of like getting those extra stones or whatever in your crown for loving people.
Jewels,
whatever, stones. Aren't those the stones? Fuck.
I got a crown full of stones.
Correct stones. Wow. I wasn't saying like crack, but
I think just traditionally is jewels in your crown.
I was thinking about the Thanos glove a little bit. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I was
Infinity
picturing.
stones.
Yeah, them joints, but in crown form.
Sure.
I picture it being like that. If you have all 7 and you have like this crown, that'd be a good illustration. You should draw that, Kat.
Okay, on it, Rose.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, just be nice to people. God, it's not
What's so hard about it?
It's a little hard, but
I feel like everybody needs more kindness and encouragement in their lives, and it's so free
and not
to
fake
do.
though. If you can't pull it off, then just
Yeah.
pause and move on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because that's the other
But
part,
there's
too.
usually something about somebody that's great. You know what I mean? Like,
I
generally,
do
like,
try to do that.
like genuinely, like everyone has their value. So
True.
it's this idea of like really trying to like the idea of this is why it's great to learn about other cultures because you know like in like the namaste like that greeting really means like the God in me sees the God in you and you just bow to you know like that is a beautiful sentiment, like a great way to go. And when you greet people, like try to see that in them, like everyone has that divine goodness in them and the divine evil as well, but
Both.
but you want to
At
and
the
but
same damn
I think
time.
that's an indigenous story too about the wolf you feed is the one that will grow.
Ooh, I like
So
that.
we have both of those in us, but you want to feed the one that you want to grow.
And it, because again, like it's part of the human experience. Like there's no getting around it. And so it's like, right, what do you choose to put all of your time and attention toward, you know? Because literally
Real talk.
and to me, I do think that it can be harder to do the good one.
I had one last note, and that was one of the because there's so many themes in the book because it's so freaking good.
Yeah.
But one of them is grief because we start out with you know, there's so much loss, you know, because that's life. We don't get out of this thing alive, so there's a lot of loss. Please wait.
I wasn't prepared for that.
I'm sorry, but
You're right. We don't.
we don't.
Okay.
So
Thank you for reminding
we
me.
have to prepare ourselves sometimes for that loss. And there was a great quote, I think it was in chapter 55, where Donna says, because she uses the idea of past and present tense when talking about deceased loved ones. Because she was just talking about how, like, oh, yeah, when someone's deceased, you start using the past tense. And then she was
like the
using
love
past
dissolves or something.
because when her grandmother was sick, she was already using the past tense for her, and she was feeling bad about that.
She was like, dang.
But there's a point when she says, when our loved ones die, let me start over. When our loved ones die, the love stays alive in the present, end quote. And I was like, that's such a beautiful concept because a lot of times I remember that too when I'm feeling sad. Like grief is that love of that person persisting. And you wouldn't want to not, like, it'd be weird if you were okay with them dying.
It's like, no, that's
Like
fine.
that is the price of life. Like every good thing you have, there's going to be that experience of the loss of it. So just
like
know
that's
that
literally love. I was trying to explain
Yeah.
that to my children, which I do feel like is a huge concept to put on to like a 10 and 8-year-old.
they
But
get it.
it's I mean, nothing is, that's the thing. Like
Permanent,
nothing is permanent. Nothing is all one thing. There's the opposite side. Everything has its opposite. And so like for every good thing that you have, there's always going to be sort of the tension, like I talked about last time, that exists on the other side of that. But arguably that's what makes it good, because it's like you say, I mean, I wouldn't give a damn if when something terrible goes away, I'm not like mad about that, right? Like it's a relief.
Right.
But also that's the good feeling. That's the opposite
Right.
of some stupid shit leaving, you know? So, but when it's somebody you love or, you know, whatever, it's, like it hurts when it's gone because it meant something. So, you know, I think I actually even heard you say that the first time maybe, and I thought, damn. Because, I mean, we've been friends long enough to where I've witnessed, I mean, I feel like you've had way more losses as far as like deaths of
Taking
people.
some L's.
I know. And it's like, I feel like she's done it so gracefully.
But you know what? I got that from my grandmother. Like you get
Like,
so much
what is
game. Like
this?
that's what I love too about the theme of the book
The
was
elders,
her
boy.
her relationship with her elders and her grandmothers. Just how she called her one grandmother Grandmary. You know what I mean? Like there's that closeness there where it's weird how sometimes you don't have the tension with your grandmother you have with your mom, because obviously your mom is
But
doing
your
the most
mom
for you.
has that tension with the grandma. And you be
Boy.
like, that ain't my mama. So
Boy.
That's
That's
funny.
another
We can do a whole
episode.
episode, yeah, for sure.
But honestly, because I saw my grandmother lose so much over the years. Like, because even when my grandfather died, of course that was a loss for me, but of course that's a bigger loss for her. And I never saw her, like, lose
Wow.
it, never cry. Only thing I heard her say one time was she's like, I'm going to miss Jack. I'm like, damn, you cold. I was like,
Damn.
and I told her that. I'm glad I told her that, like, before, you know, when her mind was still intact. I was like, you've been a role model for me on how to accept loss, because you don't get to accept everything. You've always accepted it with such dignity. It was just always, and I was like, that's always been my model for how, like, because I've seen how much she's 93 years old. She's lost a lot.
Yeah.
One thing I learned too, you never stop missing your mom. Like, she
Aw,
would be
you
in her
don't.
80s still talking about, like, I still miss mom.
Yeah.
I'm like, God.
Mama's make an impression on your heart, man, for better or for worse. And
she was still fighting with her sister over who mom liked more.
of course.
So I guess, like, if that's a thing,
Get-
never get
let's-
ready for that to be
my
over.
God,
That's just
like,
gonna. I'm an only child. I don't know.
Yo,
But
I gotta show you a picture. My nephew. Oh my God, not to. This is so they have 3.
Mm-hmm.
They just had a little one, and the second one is not feeling it. Do you hear me? He is taking it personal. Like, there's a picture. It's so funny and
Who's
cute.
this usurper?
My God. So the oldest, he's cool with it because he's like holding the baby on the lap.
He's
And
been
he's
through
like
this.
looking at him.
Yeah.
He's like, that's how you got here. It's fine.
Mhm.
And he's sitting there looking at the baby. He's like, who the fuck is this?
It's like, why do we need to bring somebody in?
And the
this?
other picture, he's like
It's
looking
like
at
when
his
you
mom
try
like, how dare you?
This is a betrayal.
No, he feels betrayed still to this day. The baby's a month old now, and he still doesn't understand
This
why
is
he's
like
there.
In,
I'm like, wow.
It was polygamous societies when they bring in a new wife or something. It's like, how?
Oh, here's
Oh.
this.
Oh,
Right.
oh.
So we ain't good enough
Oh,
now. Okay, so you
okay.
so
Here comes this little
listen, and so I do think it can be
It's
a lesson in that, we all have love to give, and it's like it's
It's an
something that we
infinite
have
source,
to. It is. It's not
yes.
like it runs out. It's not
like,
like
sorry, I ran out of love with your brother, so I don't have any love for you.
enough for you. Yeah, there's enough for everybody.
It
It's
is.
okay. Lack is such a terrible place
It is.
to build stuff from. So anyway, it was just really cute. I gotta
Have
show you those
abundance.
pictures. Yes, an abundance.
So that was
mind
all of my
frame,
notes.
guys. Okay, well listen. Maybe this is a good time to take a break. I feel like we went hard. We were super.
I never agreed with you more.
Let's take a break, guys. We'll be back. All right, guys, welcome back. We're refreshed. Drinks have been filled up.
Yes.
So I think we have to leave things right there, friend. We had so much to say. This was a really great book. I loved it, obviously. And I don't know, like if you had to rate the book, what would you give it, friend?
I would give it 4.75 out of 5 per capita payments, I guess.
Damn.
I'm
Okay.
only taking off half of a star because I don't believe in endorsing working with the feds. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay. It was like, I know exactly why you lost. This is how.
I'm seriously, like, if you find yourself in these situations, I
Like,
do
don't
not
do
I
that.
do not
Don't
recommend.
do that.
It doesn't, like in real life, it doesn't work out for real people.
Okay, that's true. I mean, it wasn't like a how-to guide, however.
But like it works out for her in the book though. Like you
Yeah,
would
it's
think
okay.
that like, oh, here's the other thing I forgot to mention, because in so many instances she uses the scientific method, and I freaking love science. I
Science
think
is awesome.
science gets a bad rap sometimes because it doesn't give the answers people want. And the fact that she described too, you try to null a hypothesis. You don't go into science trying to prove
prove
things.
it,
Like she
yeah.
was, the accuracy was giving.
I like
So, but
That's a
still,
good point.
but don't work with the feds.
that. Okay.
It's like, we want you to be a confidential informant and sign this. Especially without talking to a lawyer first. Get somebody on your side first. Because
can
the
flip it on
feds,
you.
the feds are not on your side.
My God, no, they're trying to get as much
They
information.
killed Martin
They
Luther
will-
King Jr. Look it up.
I would rate this book. I'm gonna give it 5 of those fancy red dresses with the bells on it.
Oh, yes, the healing dresses.
The healing dresses.
I'm into it. Jingle dresses.
Jingle dresses. We all need one.
Yes.
I'm ready for a dance. I'm ready to do the thing.
I wish I
And
had one.
I know. I would do it. And she even was like, I can't even dance that good. That was probably her white side. No shade to y'all.
Her.
However, but it's just, it's a feeling, it's a vibe. And so I'm giving it 5 of those. And definitely recommend this book. This is good for anybody,
Yes.
especially if you're curious about indigenous culture. Again, it's not like a
How-to
complete
guide.
picture because,
Yeah.
again, we don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, you'll read this book and know everything about indigenous people. This is about a specific tribe, and it kind of gives you the vibes and stuff like that. So if you just...
But it's a story that deserves to be heard.
I agree. And I really enjoyed it. And thank you for sharing it. And again, like, you guys, if you guys have a story to share, work on it. We want to hear it. You know what I'm saying?
We do.
Like, get it out there. So then that makes it time to talk about Stranger Than Fiction. You guys, I mean, so I hate to end on a bummer, kind of, but just in the spirit of learning about Indigenous people and some of the sort of, I don't know, pitfalls and things that happen, I saw this article on The Guardian that says that rage and despair and disgust, Canada reels from killings of Indigenous women. I wanted to highlight this because I do feel like this is a thing. Like every time I'm reading about Indigenous cultures, you always hear about how they're women, and even they call them, what do they call them? Two-spirited people. So like we would refer to them as trans people are dying, and like at the hands of a lot of it is domestic violence. Sometimes it's within their own community, but sometimes it's outside of it.
And with impunity.
And
that's
with
usually what's frustrating. It seems like it's like, she was probably being a whore.
That part. And also, too, I mean, the statistics say that, like, a lot of these things they're not going to be looked into as
There's
much.
also a lot of medical racism, too, Kelly.
Medical racism, but then also, too, because, like, the jurisdiction that
is
with
the
tribal police and which also came into play in the book. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes there's, like, they're not always working together.
No.
And so that can make things a little bit trickier. But the article says that the arrest of an alleged serial killer who targeted Indigenous women in central Canada has prompted fresh anger and despair that our country has once again failed in its promise to protect vulnerable women and girls. So police in Winnipeg announced late on Thursday that they had charged Jeremy Skabeski, 35, with murder of Morgan Beatrice Harris, who was 39, Mercedes Moran, 26, of Long Plains First Nation, and it says months after he was accused of killing Rebecca Contowes, 24, from a tribe, Ochi-Chakosipi First Nation. Hopefully I didn't all the way butcher that. But he was also charged in the murder of a fourth victim who's unnamed or whatever, but they also think that she was Indigenous, and it's just really messed up. So, like, I guess now they don't have the bodies, but they do have DNA evidence, and that's how they were able to prosecute. And it's just crazy. It says the alleged killer walked among us. He was in our city, our neighborhoods, our places of work. He was not invisible, but our women and girls and two-spirited are. And so, yeah, I mean, the statistics here are crazy. I don't want to make this like a preachy thing or whatever, but it's a thing, and I want to share this with you guys because, yeah. I feel
Their stories need to be told, too.
They just need to be told. So I'm going to put the article in our notes like we always do. And to me, it is Stranger Than Fiction that we live in a world where this shit is regular. And I don't like it.
No more stolen
It's
sisters.
not cool. It's not cool. So that was our Stranger Than Fiction story, you guys. All right, you guys. So I guess it's about that time. We're going to spin the wheel, you guys, so we know what we're going to talk about next week. So, okay, spin it. Pew!
All right. Yay. So this is exciting for me. I'm happy to announce that we are going to be reading Holidays on Ice by one of my favorite authors, David Sedaris. So you're definitely going to come back for this one. It's going to be funny. No one gets killed, and except from laughter. So
wow.
It's going to be holidays. We're going to come with we're going to have ugly sweaters.
Mine's not going to be ugly.
Oh,
it's
I'm going to do the
sweater.
holiday sweater. But those are called ugly sweaters.
Mine's not ugly, though, guys. I don't do ugly.
Okay. And so I'll have an ugly sweater. Moni will have a cute one. And we're going to discuss this funny book, which is a series of short stories.
That should be fun.
Yes.
We should have a series. We should.
I'm going to bring cookies. I'm going to bring cookies.
I feel like we should have a flight of, like, since they're short stories, we should have like a little.
Oh, I will do a
This
theme.
is why we need a sponsor. You guys, hey, if you're interested, especially if you're in the business of spirits, you guys should sponsor us. I have so many fun ways to incorporate your products.
We're all out.
And actually, don't show the label because we're not sponsoring.
I didn't.
Okay, good. We're all out, and we need more.
We're all out.
And so this is a fantastic opportunity for you guys to plug your alcoholic beverages. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited too, though. This should be fun. I mean,
I actually do want to do a theme for. Now I'm into it. I want to do like a snack and maybe a shot for each. Yeah, the next one's gonna be because this one was a little heavy. There was a lot of.
I feel like all of them are.
The real and this was fiction, but still, it was a little
heavy.
It was giving Indigenous Breaking Bad.
Oh my God. Meets Nancy Drew.
Meets Nancy Drew.
I like it. You know what, Angeline Boulay, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for
writing a long book.
But it took her a long time. That's the thing I was thinking about as well. Like she had the idea for this when she was 18. I'm just saying, y'all, especially younger folks, y'all think y'all supposed to have it figured out all in one. Listen, sometimes it takes time. She talked about how she had kids and like doing this between having kids and all of that stuff.
Life be lifing.
It does, but like keep pushing though, because sometimes this isn't something that happens overnight. But
that was like that song from Big Mouth at the end of season 1. Life is a fucked up mess.
Oh God, you made me want that.
Life is a fucked up mess. Life is a fucked up mess, and it's for everybody.
I meant there was a little shuffle.
It was. They did. It was just like no one. It was like so
this
funny.
Is alarmingly depressing, but also kind of funny
so
because
real.
they're cartoons.
Yeah, but everyone's having a hard time. It's not just you.
It's not just you.
It's not just
so,
you.
Just
You're not
share
alone.
your stories, you guys.
Yeah.
This is
You'll
such
feel
an important
better.
exercise.
And tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
That part.
To yourself first.
Yo. I feel like that deserves a high five. My husband would hate that so much. High five!
I
I'm
love
a dork.
high fives. You don't like high fives?
No, because he's mean.
Oh, we're going to give him a blanket party. Just kidding. He's great.
No, I don't think I could take him on anyway,
but people deserve high fives.
They do.
I give myself high fives all the time because people won't give them back.
I know. I'll do that, and he's like, he'll leave me hanging. It's like okay. You know you want to though.
He's too cool for that.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Cool than me. It's fine. It's the contrast. But anyway,
I know my kids do that to me too. I call them my roommates.
Man. So I'm gonna have, like I said, I'll have the article about this, and I might just add some gratuitous ones because I'm extra. So there'll be some extra stuff in here y'all didn't even ask for. However, that's just how I get down.
If you don't want it, ignore it. You're fine.
It's fine. It'll just be there in case you might come back and decide. But this was a really great read. I'm glad I found it, and I feel like I'm gonna talk about this on Patreon maybe too. I think I have something that I want to do now with my family based on like sort of this indigenous thing and creating sort of a. I'm gonna try it this year for New Year. So like I don't want to do a resolution necessarily because that feels empty. So I want to create some ceremony around it with like some smudging with some sage and like setting some intentions for the upcoming year and just like showing my kids like in actual actions and not just talking about it.
This is your hand. Give me your hand. Give it. It's driving me crazy. It was just like some fluff. I don't know.
It's from my fuzzy boy.
Yes. Sorry. It was driving me crazy.
But yeah, like I wanted to make sure that we did something as a family that we start to build on, like a tradition that's like a kind of based in spirituality, but also just around just setting intentions. I think that's one of the most important things we can do as people.
I loved that about the protagonist, that she was constantly doing that and giving.
Yeah, I loved that.
That's a good way to start your day with an intention and a run. But if you don't like running, you can find something else physical to do.
I just stretch.
I also like too that she like started being nice to her mama and stopped being so hard on her mom. I did.
But there's nothing wrong with reiterating it because I get
said
it.
again because everybody.
It's an evolution, guys. The mom-daughter relationship is an evolution, and it does come full circle, hopefully, at some point. But yeah, I think that's worth reiterating because it is important. And so just building some tradition around it. Like it inspired me to sort of like do something. So I'm still working on it, but it does include sage because I thought I want to smudge a little bit.
Oh, this is what I forgot to say about her mama, because her mom always checked the grandmama when she tried to say something about her size, because she was a bigger girl, and she was always like, her grandma would be like, oh, you're not even going to be able to fit the dresses in here.
She sure did.
And she was like, if you say another thing about her body, you will never see us again.
I know.
And I was
right.
like,
Stop.
oh.
Let's go. And to
more of that
moms,
energy.
Yes,
more of that, and having
yes.
the bravery to say stuff like that, where it's like, what you're not going to do is, because even though you're my mom and I love you, you're not going to do this stuff to my kid.
And that can be hard, but it can be done. So yeah, keep that up, you guys.
But it turns out a lot of times if you take that, because I've had to create boundaries before, it turns out people will respect them.
Yes.
Or but you have to follow through with the thing and be like, I'm not coming around.
So don't
say it without being
don't
able
write
to do
no
it.
checks, your ass came
It's
cash.
like,
That's what the old folks used to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
yeah.
so guys, this has been fun. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode.
I did. It went so fast. I don't
Another
want it to
high
end.
five.
Yeah, and now that I know you don't get high five, I'm like,
thank you. We can high five all the time now. You know what, husband? I'm not firing you, but Listen, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Because
like, come
that's
on.
foul. Okay. I do. Thank you. They feel good. So.
That was the thing on. Oh, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, guys. So, yeah, tune into Patreon, you guys, if you already signed up. I can't say it enough. We have a lot of fun stuff. All right, guys, on that note, bye.
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.